Good afternoon. So today I will explain why I believe that sustainability is the key driver of innovation. So first, let's talk about what sustainability is from a business perspective. The definition from a corporate perspective and business perspective is that it's a business approach to address opportunities, mitigate risk, create a competitive advantage, but focused on three domains. The domains are economic, environmental, and social development. And I like this because it's from the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, which is actually created in 1999 to enable corporate businesses to publish their sustainability reports. And your report is only published there if it's high quality, high integrity, and is validated. This gives you an idea about the expanse and broad nature of sustainability in terms of its three domains. That is the economic, environmental, and social. And today we're going to talk about an element in each domain. On the left side, the new market and product opportunities that are driven by sustainability in terms of green technology and design, in environmental stewardship. And on the social side, when we talk about conflict minerals, we'll touch on the human rights aspect. There's a key performance indicator that now is being used by most corporations called the environmental footprint. Now, some of you may not be familiar with that concept. Excuse me. It includes the carbon footprint, which you are familiar with, which deals with greenhouse gas emissions. But in addition to that, it deals with other pollutants, such as polluting the land and polluting the water. Plus, it includes the use of all natural resources. So when a corporation is measuring their environmental footprint, they're dealing with their use of natural resources and any pollution or damage that they cause to the environment. This particular paper, published in 2009 by the Harvard Business Review, actually inspired me to give this lecture and inspired me to do some work in sustainability over the past few years. And a couple of objectives of this paper were, one is to dispel the misconception, popular misconception, that is, that sustainability costs more. If you're going to run a sustainable operation, people believe mistakenly that it's going to cost more. This is similar to a misconception that existed before you were all born in the 50s and 60s, in which US manufacturers were firmly convinced that to produce a quality product would cost more. The Japanese proved that to be false by reducing their operating costs and producing quality products, and actually caused us, the US, to lose some industries over the past decades in the 70s and 80s. Similarly with sustainability, if you implement sustainability properly, you can reduce your operating costs, increase revenue, and establish a competitive advantage. The second part of this particular quote focuses more on the theme of this talk, and that is how you can drive and change business models to give you a competitive advantage through innovation, all driven by sustainability. At the same time, 2009, there was a collaboration established between MIT Sloan Management Review and the Boston Consulting Group to take a look at corporations, how they were dealing with sustainability, how they were dealing with the main challenges related to sustainability. Those are three, actually: resource scarcity, pollution, and market demand. So those are the challenges that most companies face when they take a look at sustainability. What these two organizations did back in 2009 is begin a survey of 3,000 companies, small, medium, and large, and global companies, to answer some of these questions. One of the findings was, second bullet, is from 2012 to 2013, the respondents indicated that 23% indicated in 2012 that they were seeing profitability benefits from sustainability, and that was by 2013 up to 37%. The last bullet there is most relevant to this talk, which indicates that 50% of the companies surveyed, these 3,000 companies, were actually looking at and changing elements of their business model. Now, everybody knows what a business model is, but in case you don't, let me just show you a picture of one. On the left side is the value proposition. What are the markets that you're addressing? What problems are you solving? What are your products and services, and how do you generate revenue? On the right side is the operating model, and how do you produce your products in terms of outsourcing? Do you use suppliers? Do you use distributors, that's a supply chain or value chain aspect. How do you actually manage your costs in terms of producing the value proposition? And how agile and competent is your organization to provide these products and services and change in anticipation of some opportunities in the industry? What's significant about this finding of this article, and by the way, this paper that I'm referring to, this one, is the fourth in a series of academic research reports. And if you're interested, they have significant, some terrific papers published on the MIT Sloan Management Review website. And what they found in this case was that 50% of the companies were actually changing 3 or 4 of the elements of their business model, which is a big deal. You just don't wake up some morning and say, okay, I'm going to change my business model. And actually 37% were changing 1 or 2 elements of the business model, another big deal. But even more impressively is that many companies were creating entirely new business models. The key message here from the same article is that business model innovation is, quote, the bottom line of sustainability-driven innovator success. So let's take a look at some examples of innovation being driven by sustainability. Clean tech, a great example. Why is this a great example? Because it addresses those 3 sustainability challenges: resource scarcity, pollution, and market demand or customer demand. And so you can read at the bottom there, clean tech is a new technology and related business models that offer competitive returns for investors and customers while providing solutions to global challenges. This slide actually shows several examples of clean tech. Over in the upper left-hand corner, energy efficiency. LEDs are an example of energy efficiency, fairly simple one, becoming common now. Business are using building control systems so they can manage and monitor the energy performance of the entire building. That's an innovation leveraging technology. Smart grid. National Grid right here in Worcester is a leader in smart grid technology in terms of leveraging new and best practices to deliver and manage energy. If you have not been to the Sustainability Hub down the street, about 912 Main Street, I encourage you to visit the Sustainability Hub to see the smart grid in action. Biofuels, biomaterials, managing opportunities to reduce pollution in the air, as well as managing water conservation and waste. Agriculture, new innovations in organic farming, for example. Renewable energy, we're familiar with those: solar, wind, geothermal. Transportation, electric cars, pretty clear. Recycling. How do you turn waste into energy? Anaerobic digestion is a great example of turning waste into energy. Let's see, advanced materials. Tantalum. Tantalum is a conflict mineral which is managed carefully by all the companies who are producing, extracting this particular mineral, and that goes right to human rights. The way we're looking for conflict-free tantalum, and that relates to the whole process of producing products related to tantalum or new steel products, and that starts with extraction. How do you do that responsibly to minimize the impact and pollution on the community? How do you produce it to minimize your energy conservation, to minimize your energy consumption and water consumption? How do you distribute it? How is it used? And how is it brought and recycled? The entire life cycle of that particular product in the advanced material area. And lastly, in terms of energy storage, we're talking about fuel cells and lithium batteries, just to name a couple. In the last few minutes, let's talk about 3 companies who have been innovative in what I would call the non-clean tech area. Dell. Dell had a problem with their customers complaining, myself included, about these large packages coming very heavy, maybe not that easy to open. And they were looking at, number 1, reducing the customer complaints and also reducing their costs of packaging and shipping. They went back through their supply chain in China and said, let's take a look at bamboo. Bamboo, as you may know, is one of the fastest growing plants in the world in terms of renewable product. And they created some very strong and lightweight packaging, and they're now shipping 70% of their notebooks packaged in bamboo. They're also using mushrooms. They're using new wheat straw and some other initiatives. through these initiatives, they're satisfying their customers and reducing not only their packaging, but also shipping costs. Kraft Foods sells salad dressing to restaurants. The restaurant owners were complaining about these big, bulky, difficult-to-store packages. And so Kraft Foods went back again through their supply chain and said, how can we address this problem and make it easier to ship and store and use salad dressing? And in this case, they created this new packaging which reduces the energy consumption by 50%, as well as the packaging material by almost 30%. What they just created was happy restaurant owners, that's a competitive advantage, and reduce their packaging and shipping costs. The last example is a long story, actually. Nestle is one of the sustainable leaders in the food industry, and they've been implementing sustainability practices for decades. In this particular case, they had enormous amount, as they created coffee, enormous amount of burned coffee grounds. They figured out a way to use the steam that resulted from this process in creating coffee to convert that into heat. And in fact, they significantly reduced their usage of natural gas by channeling that steam into energy and heat for the factories. And secondly, over the past 20 years, they've actually diverted 1.2 million tons, that is, of burnt coffee grounds from going into landfills, just to give you a few ideas. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with this message that more and more corporations are addressing the sustainability challenges, that is, resource scarcity, pollution, and market demand, with innovations that are driving business value. Thank you very much.